everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven and this is the Storytime channel. Today we've got some malicious compliance stories and our first story of the day is by alxwak. You said any character? Many moons ago I was part of a malicious compliance, so here it goes. Background. The summer before I entered high school, the Ministry of Education decided to change the standardized testing they used for entry to universities. It happened in the past and usually it took a year to implement changes, but this plan was really complicated and needed 2 years to implement. Laymen like you and me can't comprehend. It's called throwing everything at the wall and see what sticks. Guess which class got to be the lab rats? Yep, mine. We started school with only a vague idea of what the changes will be until mid-October. Then we learned that the first changes will be implemented on the midterms. The midterms used to be 2 weeks and provided 40% of the final grade. But the new plan was a full month and counts for only 20% towards the final grade. Also, a major player for the malicious compliance was our literature teacher. Let's call her Karen. Now, I have to admit, she was good at her subject. The problems in her teaching came from prejudice and preconceptions. In a 25-people class, she used to work with 4 or 5 of them. To be specific, kids from upper-class families or the best part of town. The rest of us were just background for her. A few of the parents had complained, but due to the reasons we learned later, she was always engaging during inspections and kept her job. The malicious compliance. Midterms time. It's the one of the new tests. It's creative writing. Now, as I said, this was one of the new tests. The ministry had set general instructions for the tests, but left the specifics to each school. So, for this one, Karen set the specifics. The general instructions for this one asked from the teacher to pick a book from the syllabus and the pupil to write at least 800 words from the point of view of one of the characters. Karen had a hard-on for epics, so she chose the Iliad, expecting everyone to pick a hero. Everybody did, except 3 of us, JK, Indy, and myself. I don't know if we wanted to rebel against the system or against Karen, but the 3 of us didn't follow the norm. Now, JK was a really good student, but had the usual trouble in Karen's class. She chose Andromache, the wife of Hector. She described the last day of Hector from Andromache's point of view. My friend Indy is a mythology buff. He became an archaeologist, that's why Indy, and absolutely hated Karen's teachings of the material. He picked Zeus. He basically wrote Zeus's point of view, noticing every female named in the Iliad and his horniness. Me, I chose Cassandra. She had the gift of prophecy, but the curse of never being believed. I went the whole point of view being, we're all doomed and never believed. The results come out and we are the only failed 8, 7, and 7 out of 20 because we, according to Karen, completely missed the point of the test. But the aftermath. Unbeknownst to everybody, except the principal, the ministry had sent instructors to grade the tests independently of the teachers. They published their grades and 3 particular tests had huge grade discrepancies. So, one misty morning, the 3 of us are called to the meeting room. Inside is our principal, a clearly fuming Karen, and 3 people we don't know. They introduce themselves as part of the Ministry of Education. They want us to explain why did we choose those characters. We all said, it said any character, so we chose ones we liked. Every time we said that, they glanced at Karen. They thanked us and told us that their grade will go towards our final grade. Karen had inspectors dropping on her unexpectedly. As I said in the beginning, she had passed the local ones because of something she did. She was having an affair with the assistant director of the local education department, and he always notified her before the inspection. Now they came directly from the ministry, and she was always unprepared. She was allowed to finish the year and then was dismissed. The ministry took a year and a half to figure out the system. We were the first class to officially take the new standardized test. Creative writing was part of the literature exam. JK became a journalist and a writer. Indy became an archaeologist. As for me, I'm in here. I'm kind of curious, did any of you guys ever have teachers that were kind of like this when going to school? Let me know in the comments down below. When I went to middle school, I had a teacher that had absolute anger issues, and there were some stories about some serious flare-ups and books being thrown, so let me know your stories. Our next story is by choc-cherry. Transaction fee for a purchase? What about a refund? A few years ago, I was at a pet shop picking out some toys for my cat, and the total ended up being around $40. I paid with my card because I don't carry cash on me, which was all fine and good until I had another browse of the store and decided I wanted to get some treats for my cat as well. I think they were around $5. I went to pay for them at the counter with my card, and the owner/cashier refused to put my purchase through unless it was over $20. She said they get charged a transaction fee for card purchases, so they only allowed card purchases for amounts over $20. I asked if they could just add the surcharge on top of the amount, but she refused. I had to spend over $20 to use my card. I was pretty annoyed considering I had just bought a whole heap of stuff, so I asked if she got charged a transaction fee if I got a refund. Turns out they do. So I asked to return the other stuff that I bought, got my money back, and I guess they got charged the transaction fee twice anyway. I think the best revenge here would have been to return that stuff and then buy everything back again, including the one extra item you wanted to buy, so that they got charged 3 times. And of course, you got the stuff you went there for in the first place. This next story is by illpicklater. Oh, you forgot to mention the essay at the end of the assignment? Don't worry, I got it. I was a senior in high school, and my history teacher assigned a 30-hour online course that was worth 30% of our final grade as our final assignment in the class. On top of that, if you didn't finish the assignment in its entirety, she would give us a 0 on the entire assignment. For those of you doing the math, that means if you missed part of it and didn't already have a 100 in that class, you fail the class. Not only did she give us a total of 3 class hours to work on this assignment, but she forgot to mention the 3-paragraph essay that was required. It was on the assignment sheet, which no one in the class actually read, but it was a single sentence at the bottom of the second page. The assignment was hard enough. I was working 30 to 40 hours a week and barely had enough time to do my regular homework, much less some BS 30-hour assignment with non-skippable videos and quizzes. I actually had my brother do about half of it, and I lost out on sleep to finish the rest. I finally finished the crap the day before we had to turn in the assignment. Luckily, I would get to school really early because as soon as I walked into the school, my friend runs up and says, "Did you do the essay?" and then explained that we were supposed to write an essay on our thoughts of the assignment. Now, at first, I was freaking pissed. She never mentioned this essay and made it seem like the entire assignment was online. But then I realized what the essay was supposed to be about. Malicious compliance engaged. In the 30 minutes I had left before turning in the assignment, I turned into a writing machine. The essay only had to be 3 paragraphs. I wrote almost 3 pages. I explained how the assignment was a complete waste of time. I explained my irritation with not getting class time to finish such a large and tedious assignment. I explained how I didn't learn literally anything. I explained how much sleep I lost to complete this assignment and how several of the people in the class worked near full-time jobs outside of school. And I explained how incredibly inept the overall execution of the assignment was. I got a 0 on the essay part, but I got a 90% on the assignment, which brought my grade up to a B. Several people in my class failed the class because they didn't know about the essay until class started. I don't know if it was something that the teacher said out loud or was written on the board in class that you had to notice, or was in some kind of fine print somewhere in the assignment where you just normally wouldn't see it, but I think that's absolute BS that they would include some kind of mostly hidden essay somewhere in the assignment that could outright get you a 0 and flunk the entire year for you. That would be something that I would try to elevate to some kind of body way above that teacher or professor or whatnot, because because somebody has to be able to see that and know that that's wrong, right? Our next story is by Lord Kano. I'm not qualified to do the thing that I just did, so no, I won't teach you. This happened in 2002/2003. I was doing billing support for a company. Let's just say their name is reminiscent of a very large communist country. I had applied for an opening in their IT department. I interviewed for the position, and about a week later, I was informed that I wouldn't get the position because I wasn't qualified for it. The person who got the position was the friend of one of the managers. He had spent less time out of high school than I had spent working in IT, so I knew it was more about his personal relationship with the manager than my qualifications. This company also had a billing system that was supposed to allow us to bring up copies of customer invoices and scanned copies of their contracts, but it didn't work. This problem had been ongoing for more than a year. The IT staff said there was nothing they could do to fix it. One day, I was poking around and I found the cause of the problem. The scanned customer contracts were in TIFF format, but they were saved into the system without a file extension, and our desktops were so locked down that we couldn't choose which programs open files. It was governed by the file extension. I found an old and active customer's account, renamed the TIFF file, and when I clicked on the link, the contract opened. I found my manager and showed him. He asked me to show him how I did it. I refused. I said, I am not qualified to work in IT for this company, so obviously I don't know how to do the thing that I just did. Maybe you should ask one of the more qualified people in IT. Lastly, I hit Ctrl-Z to undo the file rename. OP later on gave an update that went on to say that 6 months later, the account was scaled down and they lost their job. Basically, it can be assumed that the company wasn't being run well and it crashed and burned. This next story is by Throwaway 1999-000. Can't burn leaves? Then we will redistribute them. I'm reminiscing because my grandpa, 89, recently had a stroke. A few years back in the fall time, when he was in better health, we would rake up all the leaves in his large yard. However, the township said we couldn't burn them like we usually do, a new law or something on the books. Now, being that we live in a very rural area, my grandpa didn't like this. He was in his 70s at this point, and I think I was barely a teenager. But he was also a lawyer for years before he retired, so the law must be followed. Anyways, we didn't feel like taking load after load of leaves to the dump, but we couldn't burn them. So we loaded them high into the back of Grandpa's pickup, and not wanting to go to the dump, I said, Grandpa, let's just drive until they all blow away. And so we did. It was glorious. Me riding shotgun and my 70-year-old grandpa, he was probably closer to 80 at the time to be honest, driving down the country road with the tailgate down, watching all those leaves blow out into the fields behind us. We had great fun doing it and still talk about it to this day. Can't burn the leaves, you say? Alright, then we'll redistribute them. Thankfully, OP did give an update to the story and said that their grandpa is home from the hospital. They do have a lot of rehab and recovery ahead though. I'm wishing the best for OP's grandpa, and I'm appreciative that they even shared this story because it sounds like one of the most pure and happy memories to be able to look back on. And our final story of the day is by Oddhiro Mitarashi 22, Hotel of Compliance. My sister is an OFW, or Overseas Filipino Worker, and ended her job a year ago working on a seaside hotel on Phuket, Thailand as a head chef. Due to this hotel being a tourist hotspot because of its high reviews, great customer service, and beautiful scenery, my sister experienced enough entitled Karens and Kevins during her 5-year stay in the job. Because of this, the hotel suffered from choosing beggar influencers or CBI, both foreigners and locals. My sister knew about this a lot due to the next circumstances. Choosing beggar influencers will call the hotel 2 days or a day before the reservation. Some even called for a manager as they demanded for a nice hotel room with breakfast for a shout out and asked for a hefty discount because of the exposure. It happened more than 10 times during my sister's employment, so the hotel complied. The business furnished the most cheapest room available, telling the CBIs that this is the ultra deluxe room prepared for you. and my sister preparing the most cheapest breakfast the hotel has to offer, plating it so fancy so it's Instagrammable. My sister is an Instagram girl, so she can relate. Many choosing beggar influencers believe that they got a great discount in a deluxe room and great food during their stay, but they just get what they paid for. It's not a loss for the hotel. Due to that system, my sister and her coworkers use the word "the influencer room" as a joke to each other. My sister said that room is only exclusive for choosing beggar influencers, and they hosted at least 14 CBIs during her 5-year contract on the job. Thank you all for reading. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like formerly a larger custodial closet or something like that they were like, you know what, we're not really using this room, we can throw some wallpaper on it, put a bed in there, call it a free influencer room, whatnot, we got it. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you enjoyed the stories today, let me know which one was your personal favorite and why in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, please like this video and subscribe and turn notifications on because anything you do helps this channel grow so much more. So no matter what you do, whether it was just watching the video, liking, subscribing, thank you all so very much for supporting me right here on the Storytime channel. I hope you all have a wonderful day and I'll see you all next time right here.